Welcome to Harbinger's flagship interactive webinar, Power Hour. Select the right speaker for audio output. Test your speaker from audio settings. If necessary, join the webinar using your phone. Use the Q&A panel to share your questions. This webinar is being recorded. Attendees will receive the recording. Let's tune in.
Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well. My name is Shurare Teimurian, and I will be your moderator for today's exciting event. Thank you all for taking the time to attend this Power Hour session hosted by Harbinger. For those of you joining us for the first time, Power Hour is a series of interactive roundtable discussions featuring industry experts who share their ideas, experiences, and insights on key topics shaping the future of work and learning. The topic for today's discussion is Agentic AI in hiring: speed, scale, and the human touch. Now it is time to introduce our host for today's roundtable discussion, Shrikant Patatil, President and CTO at Harbinger Group. Shrikant leads innovation in emerging technologies and business strategy, particularly in the HR tech and learning space. With over 2 decades of experience in building scalable digital products, he is passionate about leveraging AI, automation, and intelligent systems to reshape the future of learning and work. He also advises global enterprises and product companies on digital transformation, product modernization, and the adaptation of AI-first solution. Over to you, Shrikant.
Thanks, Sharare, for that kind introduction. Made my job much easier. So it's my privilege to have a great panel here today and seek their guidance on this important topic of how AI is transforming everything in the HR world. So before I go ahead and bring the panel here, I think it may be good to just to give you an overview of today's game plan and also set the context a little bit. All of you know that GPT-5 has been recently released, probably 3 or 4 days before. There's been mixed feedback about it, but overall, AI is kind of transforming by the day as we speak. And according to Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, we are moving towards singularity at a much rapid pace. Singularity is a time when machine intelligence will surpass human intelligence. He calls the next few years as the age of gentle singularity. Today, in this context, of all this AI-led transformation, we are here to discuss how it affects our industry, like the HR and the HR technology that enables a lot of workforce related operations as well as transformations and so forth. And specifically today, we said that let's talk about the recruitment subdomain. Our game plan for today is to understand how agentic AI use cases are being applied in the recruitment space. What are the guardrails one needs to use while using some of this agentic AI technology? What kind of biases and challenges that one will encounter, and where is the human in the loop in terms of all of this technology coming our way with automation and agents and so forth. So that's essentially the focus. To give you some more context, I'll take maybe a couple of slides to just give you what's our analysis and thinking about this whole topic. And some of you will be kind of thinking, okay, what's this whole agent and agentic world out there. So in our analysis, we kind of looked at agents in 3 or 4 or 5 here probably 6 different buckets, starting with very simple agents like ones that help you fill up forms. There are rules, and they kind of help you change some passwords and settings and so forth. Then going to model-based stuff, like for example, a machine which adjusts itself with the temperature and weather patterns and so forth. Probably goal-based agents also you might have seen, where there are robots in a specific environment doing and accomplishing certain kind of tasks. There could be utility-based agents that help you find itinerary or settings and book tickets and so forth based on your preferences. Now, these are the kind of agents which we are all comfortable with, and we already use them in some shape or form. Future is the learning agents, where they're learning with a lot of context that we are providing about our applications, our workflows, and then they're changing their behaviors of how they respond to certain things. And the same goes with hierarchical agents, where they are doing end-to-end automation. Now, this is where, ChatGPT-5 and MCP kind of technologies are going. That means like agents of agents kind of a thing, where you just tell your intent and it decides what and how to do these things. Now, all of this may not be applicable to everyone, but in pockets and in different flows of work that we are starting to use, we will encounter this in technology. As what's happening with the AI platforms, and specifically looking at the recruitment workflow, right? Currently, it's divided into 4 or 5 buckets: the sourcing, the resume screening, the interview scheduling, assessments, which goes in like multiple layers, candidate engagement, onboarding, and so forth. And there are companies, that are operating in each one of these segments. And it's like the .com probably, where there is so much of opportunity and so many use cases and reimagining of how we do some of these processes, that there are new ways of doing the whole hiring, sourcing, screening, scheduling, interviewing process. And it's a great time if you are an innovator building some of these things, but of course it's a challenging time as well, as to how you convince the buyers, or how the buyer behavior is changing and how you are adopting your technology to that. So speaking of opportunities, I think one also has to look at the barriers. And on the opportunity side, you have a company like Unilever, which recently published that for all of their entry level or first round screening, they have achieved 100% automation, right? And that's like over 1 million candidates. And that's huge in terms of what they probably would not have even imagined 2 or 3 years before that. At the same time, California said that, you could be using an automated decision-making system, and it will be equivalent to an employer agent, and we are okay with you doing that. And that will be acting on behalf of the employer. So that means if an agent makes a decision, it's same like a human or a HR taking that decision. So the same laws and things will apply. So if you're building apps and releasing that, and your technology is being used to make some decisions like this, you need to make sure that you have put all the guardrails and systems in place, so that no wrong decision is made. So on that note, I think I've set enough context now. Let me bring in our panelists, and they are kind of thought leaders in the space of AI and HCM. Starting with Albert, who is the partner at Ignite Human AI. Albert, thanks for joining us today. Welcome. If you would be kind to introduce yourself and tell us what makes you interested in this topic.
Definitely. Thank you, Shrikant. So hello, everyone. My name is Albert Loyola. I'm a human capital partner at Ignite Human AI, a firm that focuses on the intersection between technology and talent. I work closely with multiple Fortune 500 clients on their end-to-end transformation. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Albert. Yeah, go ahead. Just say
And I
something.
think I missed the second part of your question, which is why this
Oh,
this
yeah.
conversation interests me. It's, there are a lot of, I think the best way to answer this is a great opportunity to educate the market and be able to tell a compelling story on how do you connect talent to business value. How are you able to also start thinking about talent, process, and technology all working together? So this is a great conversation to educate the market, but also define the roadmap on how you get started with agentic AI in talent acquisition.
Fantastic. And thanks, Albert, once again, and look forward to hearing more of your views as you work with a lot of these, technology companies as well as, enterprises as to how you are seeing some of the trends and how people are using the technology. Let me now welcome Lawrence Paranidharan, who is the founder and CEO of Introspect AI. Lawrence, thanks for joining us today. A warm welcome. Yeah, if you would be kind enough to introduce yourself and also let us know what makes you passionate or interested in this particular topic.
Thanks, Shrikant. Good to be here. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening. So I'm Lawrence Paranidharan, co-founder and CEO of Introspect AI. We are building Spectra, a multi-agent interview platform that uses agentic AI to conduct thousands of interviews that are very domain specific and at scale, while preserving the context, the reasoning, and trying to mimic the human experience as part of it. And that's what we do. And I am really so excited to be part of this panel to discuss the current state, the challenges, and the opportunity ahead of us. As Shrikant pointed out, we are at an incredible time where the technological inflection is happening at scale at a different velocity. And it seems to be scary, and I think I'm here to share perspective, what we see from our end. At the same time, I'm here to listen to other perspectives, what they think. At the same time, we have had discussions with our customers, and we have some idea what they think as well. So I'm happy to be here and share what we see and what the current trend is.
Hey, thanks, Lauren. And I'm sure, let me get to you first in terms of, since you're building right in the middle of, consuming this technology and trying to change how people use or do some of these workflows in recruitment. What's your observation in how agentic AI is being applied to recruitment, either from the perspective of your product or otherwise? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think on the first slide or the second slide you mentioned about the characteristics of AI agents. Let me just quickly touch that before I come into the life cycle of it. I think the main thing that we are talking about is autonomy. The agents has high autonomy within a specific task, right? So it's important to understand that it requires goals and predefined rules that are set by humans. So it is not magically these goals and the predefined rules are happening. And at the same time, the agents are capable of learning by itself and adapting to situations, right? Again, these are all within the predefined parameters that we set, then the products that we build or the agents that we build, right? And it has a very specific scope that it needs to accomplish. It's like a horse running in running in a race course with the blinders, right? It is very focused. Otherwise, it's going to be it's going to lose focus. So that is how the AI agent can be looked at. So with that, as you already showed on one of the screens, that there are various different life cycles in the hiring process or the recruitment process, starting from candidate discovery to resume scoring, screening interviews to level 1 interviews, level 2 interviews, and assessment and analysis, right? So there are various different life cycle. So within that, I think in every bit of these workflows, agentic AI can be applied in some form or fashion, right? So where we are focused on is on three areas primarily. The resume screening, the initial screening interviews, as well as how do we assess that candidates for us to take them to the next step. So those are the three areas that we are focusing on. And but the pain point is where that we are actually talking to customers. What is the biggest pain point? It doesn't make any sense to just take an agentic, throw it in all any type of workflows that we have. The biggest pain point that we see is the volume, right? Customers are really feeling if they put a job post, and probably they are getting about 100, 500, or even thousands of resumes. How can we humanly process everything? How can we give an opportunity for every candidate to have a fair chance to be put in front of the recruiters, right? So it's highly impossible. So I think that is where I think our solution or the agentic based solutions can really come into play. Wherever there is a economical value, see if I deploy an agentic AI, does it add any economical values? Can it operate at scale 24/7? Can it extract some kind of intelligence automatically? So it helps me to make a decision, better decisions. I think those are all the questions that we put. And with that, I think our agentic AI is actually playing a role in all these three different areas, just screening the resumes, screening the candidates, and assessing them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense what you just said. And from an autonomy perspective, Lawrence, what is the customer expectation? Should it be like fully autonomous, or they are expecting like some higher degree than what they operate with?
I think we are way too early in the game. Fully autonomy is kind of the AGI is kind of the end goal. I think at least it's kind of evolving. So even we recommend, to our customers, there should be always a human in the loop should be there. And our tool is considered as kind of an augmenting or a tool for them to help them accelerate certain process. Basically, it's augmentation tool. So that is how we kind of project it. But down the road, I think technology is evolving at a scale. GPT-5 is coming, probably who knows what is coming in the next year or two, where it is possible to fully automate it. But I think at this point, we have to take it and address the very important pain points, and that adds economical values.
Makes sense. The economic value makes a lot of sense. So let me bring in Albert now. Albert, thanks for patiently waiting. So one question that keeps coming up, and we do a lot of analysis and we talk to a lot of analysts and stuff like that, and recruitment or pre-hire seems to be the space where there's a lot of AI being applied. Now, do you have a perspective of what is driving that trend, like across HR workflows, why recruitment and pre-hire kind of is where all the automation is happening? Any thoughts?
Yeah. So let's take one step back to set the stage of the question.
Mm-hmm.
So innovation has been a capability embedded in talent acquisition for the last 10, 15 years. We started off the journey, and I think you mentioned this at the beginning of your introduction, which the chatbots, frequently asked question chatbots, to be able to answer questions from the candidates, all the way from candidate screening to be able to recommend candidates, all the way to agentic AI. The big disruption here is how you're using artificial intelligence to be able to either automate tasks, or, which is agentic AI, which is bringing, which is creating automation and allowing system to work autonomously and make decisions. Now, that is creating a problem, because allowing a system to be able to make decisions on behalf of a human, it brings problems and challenges around fairness, potential bias, and trust. However, I think as we see this technology evolving, we are also going to see companies adapting to those new capabilities, right? So with that in mind, one of the things that I've been working on with a talent acquisition client is how can you use agentic AI for proctoring, assessment, and interview? And what they are bringing to market is an avatar that looks like Albert and Shurkant. He's able to smile. He's able to make those reactions. He's able to learn in every single interview and proctoring assessment, so that the client is thinking about, I need to interview 100 candidates. What is the best way to assess those skills? And then have some level of recommendations so that a recruiter can make the final decision. So that's where we're going. That's where the market is shifting. Is to start thinking about moving from an AI that was supporting to an AI system that is augmenting the talent acquisition function.
Okay. So it's what you're saying is that the augmentation is where and because probably talent acquisition is so widely used and everybody across the world uses it, there's a high need to, or probably a higher expectations to do things at scale and at a certain level of autonomy. That makes a lot of sense. Let me bring in Lawrence and ask him this question about specifically interviewing. And I think, Lawrence, your product, I mean, that's where a lot of people get, you resume screening, job posting, all of that, it's still okay. But when you try to apply agentic AI in interviewing, the bias quotient probably becomes much more conscious or relevant or debated about. What are your thoughts about how have you gone about addressing that, or how what's your thoughts on basically this whole point about ethical and functional limits to avoid bias?
Yeah, I think we are talking about responsible AI. What that means is it's transparency. We are talking about accountability and traceability. All these qualities needs to be as part of the design level. When I say transparency, it needs to explain to the users why it took that kind of a decision. What is the reasoning behind it? That kind of explainability is important. And transparency in AI decision making really refers, the ability to understand, interpret, and explain how the system arrived at certain recommendations or actions, right? So, and that's very, very important to build the trust between the user and the system. So as part of it, we are building in our system that kind of an explainability, meaning that if we score a resume, we explain why we did that. What is the decision that actually steered toward that kind of a scoring. But at the foundational level, if you look at the open AI or any other company, they are committed to this as well, and they are committed to these explainable, transparent qualities, and they have already incorporated into their models. And we, as a top layer builders, we are taking that and we kind of build additional explainable layer and observability layer for our users, so they can actually come and look at it, why this decision is made. And again, the traceability and auditability is also part of it. So for example, we record all these videos, the transcript, and every bit of this action that is happening between the bot as well as the candidate. So the recruiter can go back and verify and say, yeah, it is correct. Actually, 4 out of 5 or 10. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. That kind of trust, if they started to build that, eventually I think there is a good cooperation between the AI and the human will build. At the same time, the system should also be very not doing any type of bias parameterized system, where age, gender, or anything else related to bias. To mitigate this, I think that is where the auditability comes. I think there are talks about third-party auditors who come validate these models to verify are they bias neutral. Those kind of things are happening. I think it's encouraging. There are some third-party audit companies are coming up to do all these kind of things. I think that will also add to the trust from the users.
Okay, that's a great point of explainability and audit kind of functionality, and you are leveraging what OpenAI and other platforms are doing and building something on top of that. Now, from an end customer perspective, I know from an application perspective it is possible, but how do end customers get this explainability? Is it like visible in the software, or they have to go and ask you for that?
For example, we do resume scoring, and right next to that, we are providing a user interface for them to actually see, and that is where they explain. We give the explanation why we score this resume, as well as after the interview is completed, for every question and answer we score them, and for each scoring we do the explanation why we scored in this fashion. Right. So I think at every bit of a decision that AI is making, we give the explanation to the users.
Okay, so it's provided within the interface in the way the user kind of understands.
Absolutely. As Albert pointed out, hey, you do the heavy lifting at some point. As a human, we come in the loop and make the final decision. I think that combination is very important.
Okay. And most probably all softwares would now need to provide this. They cannot just score or analyze without providing that explainability.
I think without that, I think organizations are taking a huge risk, because if it is a black box, I don't think that trust can be established. I think any organizations without these, they are taking a huge risk.
Makes sense. So Albert, I think you are one of the industry thought leaders, and you work with a lot of companies and end customers as well. And I'm sure you may have seen some successes and failures as well of going AI first, or doing a lot of automation. So what are your kind of tips from any of those either successes or failures, any companies or organizations that you work with have come across? Anything that you want to share with us and the audience? Albert, you're on mute. Sorry.
I apologize. Yes, I'll start off with some success stories. I think the question here is, how do you create a sustainable technology capability, whether it's agentic AI or something else, to quickly be able to screen, assess, and recommend the right candidates so that you can hire at scale and connect candidates with business value? And in order to do that, the technology component, what I tell my clients is the last piece of the car. You need to start thinking about number one is what is going to be the vision of AI to help across the entire candidate experience end to end. What is that vision? Translate that vision into persona journeys and connect those persona journeys with processes, technology, and the data needed.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have that structure, that will be connected to an operating model. How we're going to make decisions, how we're going to govern AI, how we're going to be able to evaluate new technology and be able to deploy it. But lastly, but not least, is how we're going to be able to create trust internally with our talent acquisition team so that they can feel comfortable working alongside with new technology, but also at the same time be able to have the right guardrails to be able to tell candidates or internal employees in terms of why you be chosen for a particular role and why not. And one other thing that I tell my clients is it's important that even though you're bringing the latest and the greatest solution, you need to have a clear framework where the platform is learning from your previous patterns, be able to do that analysis, that foundational technology and data work, so that that new technology platform can learn from your company's data to make accurate predictions. I think that's something that I recommend to clients at the very high level, how they need to approach new technology. And that's what happened with a pharma client. They started with that approach. They were looking to be able to hire scale, but they have multiple systems and they didn't talk to each other. Different data sources. It was hard for the talent acquisition leader to be able to say, here are some talent analytics that will be connected to career mobility and learning and so on. They started that journey, be able to define the operating model, connect that with the service delivery. And then with that structure, they were able to say, here's the new future looking technology stack that we need across the talent funnel. So that's one of the stories that I learned over time working with these clients. One of the opportunities or the gaps is, how can you limit or reduce the risk of compliance challenges? And that's something that HR needs to work closely with two main stakeholders. Number one is IT, and number two is with legal. What's going to happen is that every vendor in the market will tell you, hey, my solution is capable, has certain level of standards, and I will tell you they're your best solution, right? But the story here is to quickly be able to start thinking about the broader ecosystem and how this technology is going to plug into your entire technology and data architecture. If you don't have that view, you're just adding layers of technology that at the end of the day might have overlapping capabilities. And instead of creating a seamless candidate experience, you just make it even more challenge to be able to create those analytics and seamless experiences. So that's something to keep in mind, because one component is the experience, and another component is having the foundational technology and data capabilities to make predictions.
Yeah, wonderful points, Albert. I think that got me thinking a little bit. Are you able to hear me? My internet connection is saying it's unstable.
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
So of course, large companies have their own ways and multiple systems, and they need a framework to be able to adopt some of these technologies. And it makes a lot of sense that unless they get all their processes, framework, everything right, it'll be hard for them to adopt. But do you think that the newer companies, like the smaller companies, will adopt the AI and this agentic way of doing things faster than the larger ones? They would be able to get more out of it sooner?
That's a great question and a great point. The thing is, when we think about AI, we are talking about different type of AIs for different type of companies, right? So we are going to have AI that is able to do the screening based on traditional machine learning models. And for some companies, based on the business problem they are trying to solve and their current HR or talent acquisition capabilities, might work. For the innovative ones, maybe they are already experienced with those capabilities and have a well-structured foundation on talent, technology, operating model, and the way how they serve their clients. So then they might be ready for agentic AI. But here's what I see in the market is that not many companies are still quite yet there. And the reason why is because there are a lot of challenges around compliance and risk management. So think about Shurkan to financial services, which is very highly regulated, right? So if I'm a big bank, even a mid-tier bank, I know my core capabilities as a bank is to be able to be compliant to the law and reduce minimum risk to my customers. So those are going to be critical components when you are choosing the right talent acquisition technology that will require level of assessments, like detailed assessments on data, infrastructure, what's the materials, the training, the explainability, right? And sometimes that process takes months until they have the new solution ready. But again, it's because this is something new and we are still regulating the scope of this new capability. So it will take some time. That's my perspective until companies feel comfortable moving from the experimentation to the actual scalability of this capability in talent acquisition.
Makes sense. I think those are fairly logical points, and I think we will see how the whole adoption and change management, and incorporation of this technology alongside people as well as others help. So on that note, let me get Lawrence once again. And Lawrence, I think there may be other people who are building similar AI agentic technology, and you already are in it. What challenges have you facing from a go-to-market perspective? And if you have any learnings to share with the audience, like, take care of these things before you actually go and try to sell something or think that there's a market for this. Any perspectives, learnings that you want to share?
Yeah, as Albert pointed out, I think regulations is one of the key decision-making things. I think that customers are a little apprehensive on this particular topic because it's fragmented, and and it's kind of constantly evolving, these kind of regulations. I mean, GDPR established right to explain kind of for decisions that are made by automated systems is already put in there, but again, it's loosely coupled. They also have AI Act that classifies AI systems based on the risk level. Obviously, the financial example that Albert showed, it has probably a high risk level, whereas maybe the initial screening part in a hiring may be a slightly lower risk as compared to the final decision making, where we automate at that level. So I think it kind of depends. I think customers are really looking into these as one of their biggest validating points. The other one is privacy concerns. As agents are gaining more access, trying to be autonomous as much as as it can. Different data sets can be, it can make continuous inference about the individuals, the organizations, all these things kind of, it's challenging for the customers to kind of comprehend, hey, what are the security concerns for me? I think that is another, a friction point for us. I think mainly these are the two concerns, and other ones are probably kind of minor ones. Hey, the perception of a human talking to a bot is kind of was there, but that is kind of getting faded out at this point. People are getting used to that now. Yeah, it is doing, AI is probably, it is more knowledgeable than the human. Okay, let it do its job. I will as a human come in the loop at some point, take it over from there, right? So I think that is kind of is tapering down, but the main things are the regulations and the privacy concerns.
It makes sense. That's a good piece of advice for anybody building HR software. One more perspective that I keep hearing, and maybe you've encountered, is how the whole pricing model, right, from SaaS to AI based agentic software is going to do. Any thoughts or any perspective on that? Like, are customers expecting something different, how they license or use the software?
Question for me, Shrikant?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, pricing, it's still in the discovery phase because these are all completely new. But at the end of the day, I think I talked about the economical values, right? So if I use this as part of my workflow, what is it going to be streamlined for me? Is it going to make my life better? The insights that it's going to give me, does it help me make better decisions? That is one. Number two, as part of that, what is the economical gains? What is the cost reduction? So I think what we are seeing is about 60 to 80% cost reduction in terms
Okay.
of putting a human recruiter for the initial stages versus just using augmented tools like ours. I think I think that is the main thing, rather than how it is priced is all doesn't it's irrelevant. There are two models that we are seeing. One is price per minute. Hey, you conduct in a 5-minute interview or 10-minute interview or 15-minute interview, you just pay per minute. The other one is pay on success. I think that model is also kind of emerging, but what we use is pay per minute.
Makes sense. Thanks for sharing that advice. It was kind of in my mind as to what will be the future from pricing and the whole economical value, and convincing people, that the buyers, that is how do you share the ROI will be interesting. And thanks for sharing your perspective on that. Albert, Lawrence talked about the challenges from a go-to-market perspective and compliance, and that some of those things were there. So are you seeing any emerging excuse me, any emerging standards that talent acquisition or government is coming with, that firms as well as buyers need to be aware of or implement for being able to use AI or agentic AI in hiring?
I think there are two main components to that. Number one is the European AI Act that has been approved, right? Where it clearly states the components that companies will need to pay attention in order to use, manage, and deploy these AI systems. And with that in mind, for example, is to start thinking about what's your approach to measure and test these new capabilities, these new talent acquisition systems, right? Do the vendor due diligence. Have a structure in order to assess and compare apples to apples, specifically on AI and data. Number two is be transparent in terms of telling candidates if they are using intelligent technologies to screen your resume, and have the explainability capability to have it ready when necessary. In addition to that is the AI Act is requiring training programs, not only for the vendors, but also for companies. Like, you need to make sure that you have a well-structured training programs on AI fluency. Lastly but not least is to be able to secure and reduce risk and be compliant into those potential biases that could be created as a result of a new agentic AI capabilities. On the other side is from the organization side of the house is how can you address those critical components coming from the European AI Act? One of the key components to think about is having a governance framework. And what I mean by that is to have a well-structured framework where you start off not only with the steering committee, but also have who are the functional teams, the implementation teams, and the technical teams. Every single layer should have specific goals, metrics, and responsibilities. And having a governance will help you to define how we're going to deploy, how we're going to manage, and be able to connect multiple data points across the talent lifecycle. This will be connected to your operating model and the way how you're going to deliver the services. So I think it's a lot of work that needs to be done in the governance on data, artificial intelligence, work closely with IT and legal. This is one of my advice that I constantly discuss with multiple clients is, even though we are talking about talent, this is not an HR problem. This is something related to the entire enterprise, where we are be able to define those foundational capabilities to make sure that we are deploying, acquiring, and developing talent according to our business needs.
Thanks for sharing that European standard that is coming in place, and also this whole thing that organizations should work with IT and legal. I mean, when they are deploying some software that is agentic or has AI capabilities. So thanks for sharing that perspective. I think I'm sure people will take away that, and make sure that they do that as they implement or use or build some of these software. Coming to the last segment, Lawrence, I wanted to bring you and ask you this particular question about human in the loop, right? Or what parts of uh, uh, the recruitment workflow you think will be still very human led, and where can agents completely take over, like without degrading the candidate experience? Any thoughts, and ideas there?
Yeah, agents can, it's a tireless, engine, it can run 24/7. So I think it makes perfect sense to apply that in the early stages of the the screening part. It can do much better job than a human. But however, agents can, even though agents can lead during the structured screening, especially in the high volume, do repetitive things over and over again, do a lot of assessment, gathering all different multimodal, data points, and collect and give that, analysis for the recruiter. The humans are really irreplaceable in the final stages of the interview, whether it is in a cultural alignment decisions or any type of edge cases. The fine nuances, touching the empathy, those are all pretty vital. The critical thinking, how do you assess the critical thinking? I think humans can do much better job than the AI. For example, the team working. I think if, for example, let's say there are 3 final candidates the recruiter is kind of trying to evaluate. At that point, the everybody probably did the same thing on the AI assessment, but some of the things, the teamwork, the empathy, the curiosity, how do you assess the curiosity of a person if that person is really going to make a difference in my team? So those kind of things, actually, I don't think AI can do a better job in that final stages. Things may change, but at least for the near future, I don't think human is irreplaceable during the final stages.
Hey, thanks, Lawrence. I think that will be reassuring to many people that there is still a role for human to play. Coming from somebody who's building an agentic AI software, there is that collaboration and thing possible, and that's how it should be.
Yeah, we are not thinking as in a human versus AI versus human. I think AI with human oversight and judgment makes a huge difference.
Makes it, yeah, makes. Thanks for sharing that. Albert, I know this probably is a topic for some other discussion, but there's this whole hiring trend that are people talking about skills first kind of an approach, hire faster, better, and AI is going to be your answer to support that whole skilling, reskilling, and hiring process. How do you see this shift happening, and what's the role of AI in this whole skills first sort of a model?
I think is how do you create a talent intelligence capability enabled by AI to quickly be able to solve a business problem? Let me give you an example. Let's say your retail client is going to a new market and they need to hire a general manager and staff, a frontline staff. Then instead of just looking in the local market, what if you talk to your agentic agent and say, here are the specific job descriptions, experiences, and the performance from previous employees that were successful in those roles. What I need you to do is go to my ATL systems and be able to tell me which are the right candidates for this particular opportunity in this region, and then recommend the top 10 and get back to me tomorrow. Then the system will be able to use that information based on those parameters. And this is back to my topic on building the foundational layer on technology, data, and talent. right? And then the system will be able to go that, review that information, have the right integrations capabilities, and come back to Albert and say, Albert, based on that prompt, here are the top candidates that you should pay attention to. In addition to that, then Albert will review, and then will say to the agent, well, now what I need you to do is start thinking about how are we going to be able to identify the right compensation for this role, and what is the best way, if we want to look for external candidates, the best way to engage those candidates and invite them to apply. Then the system will be able to do that work, and I can keep going, right? I think at this point you understand the point that I'm trying to make, right? It's creating a conversational layer where AI is not only executing tasks, it's actually working the back end 24/7 and making recommendations, right? And I think what is a challenge here is that AI or agentic AI is not something you plug and play. You need to have an end-to-end strategy on those components that we just discussed today. If you don't have that, it's what you are creating just is adding another layer, and a system that has been trained with general data that doesn't understand your business, doesn't understand your culture, your talent. So the value add is to spend quite some time to be able to bring these technologies and adjust it, integrate it with with organizational systems so they can make the accurate predictions. So that's something will take time. It's not something that it will change from one day to another. Even the leading companies are still trying to figure out how to bring this capability. But the opportunity is there, right? There is still right now companies where they are curious about how we can embed this new capability. Something is certain, like if agentic AI is going to change, and it's changing the way how we're going to work with intelligent systems. It's going to be the conversational component that instead of the recruiter going to your ATS, hey, look for the right job description, look for the approval, then look for the skills, go back to the candidate, passive candidates, and then start drafting a new candidate engagement post. All of that is going to be done by just speaking with an agent, and the agent will do it on your behalf. That's where we're going.
That's a great point, Albert.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think you kind of put it well together in that use case as well. And this full point about that building that talent intelligence in the organization or within the platform is very important. Only then the agents will be able to do the autonomous tasks or help you do things faster and at scale with the right kind of accuracy. I think that's a topic of talent intelligence, and how to do that is a separate conversation, and I'm sure we'll get an opportunity to discuss that. So on that note, let me kind of thank both of you for sharing your valuable insights on this particular topic that's everybody is kind of working and trying to deploy, use, build sort of stuff. So but that brings us to the end of our panel discussion. But do hang on for the audience questions, which I think may sometimes even be more thought-provoking and interesting. So just to summarize, in a nutshell, we today looked at the agentic AI use cases specifically from a hiring recruitment perspective. We said, how we can do things at scale, autonomy, agility, and what are the different guardrails one could set. Where is the human in the loop in the all of this? And overall, building a talent intelligence framework or a layer of intelligence or data or information that is necessary before you kind of plug in new software. So thanks, Lawrence and Albert, for sharing those perspectives. Quick note about Harbinger Group. We are a product engineering and a content services company specializing in human capital management and the learning domain. To know more about us and what we do and how we transform the way people work and learn, you can write to me at shrikant@harbingergroup.com or contact at harbingergroup.com or visit us website. Let me hand this over to Sharari for the audience Q&A, if there are any. And thanks once again for patiently, being a wonderful audience. Sharari, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Shrikant, and thanks to all our panelists. With that, we will open the floor for questions. Please feel free to type your questions in the Q&A panel, and I will be happy to bring them up for our panelists.
Fun fact is if nobody's asking a question, if you have a co-pilot, you can ask the co-pilot, hey, you've been listening to this conversation. Can you propose some questions for Albert and Lawrence? That's where we are with technology
There you
right
go.
now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
like
a couple of them in
there you go.
So we have some questions. Shrikant, would you like me to bring them
Yeah,
up?
I can read it. So there's one from Ward. He says, if agents from multiple vendors are processing data, how can clients know what data is being retained, where, for how long, and it is being secured and not sold off to other partners? Maybe Lawrence, you can answer this since you are building this technology, and probably you get asked this question quite a when you're processing data. Do you store it? Do you not store it? And how secure is it? And is it shared with other people? How do you?
We don't share any personal data in our system except the resume, the job description. That's all the thing that we store. Again, the commitment from OpenAI and similar leaders that they are committing that the data that is shared from our API calls are never being used for training their data, training their models, and so on. And we tend to do the same thing. We don't do any type of storing other than the results that we process from the candidates. And again, it is up to the client what is the retention period for them, whether it is 30 days or 60 days. And we give that power to the customers. They can manage it. And it is completely isolated. Every tenant is isolated from a data and the traffic perspective. They are all in their own silos. So your data is your data.
That's probably reassuring. And thanks for sharing that, how you are doing it. I'm sure others are also doing it the same way. Albert, probably you can take this question. What are the risks, roadblocks that hiring managers may face in the initial period of implementing agentic AI systems for hiring? So
The first one is the human component. Make people comfortable and create a psychological safety of tasting this new capability. That is one of the most challenge one, because we need to conquer hearts and minds. And as a human beings, we are used to do things in a certain way. So every time we have a new technology disrupting the market, then we need to shift gears because we will need to adapt to new ways of working. So that's number one. Number two is to have the right stakeholder alignment and buy-in. This is something that is not led only by HR at the executional level. This is something that needs to come directly from leadership, because your systems and the technology that you want to embed in talent acquisition, it needs to be aligned with the enterprise technology structure. So having that buy-in and be very clear on expectations and the way how we're going to deliver is going to be critical to make sure that everybody's on the same page on outcomes. Lastly but not least is that typically these new technologies involve some changes in decision making, governance, the structures. So think about an organization that handles more than 1 million applications. you have a team of people, recruiters, doing the analysis, whether some of the activities are automated or not. You still have a team dedicated to this. The moment you bring agentic AI or any other technology, also likely there are going to be some changes in workforce and the other component that I just explained, right? So that involves a deeper analysis on how this is going to be the interaction between the new recruiters, the new role of the recruiters, and this technology.
Makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Albert, for giving us those three perspectives. There's one more question on the go-to-market, but probably since we don't have time, maybe Lawrence or Albert, you can answer them. We'll send that over and we'll post it later. Shari, over to you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Shrikant. And a big thank you to our panelists for a wonderful and insightful discussion. I am sure we all are walking away with plenty of food for thought. I know I am. I'm going to. To our audience, thank you for being part of this session. You have been absolutely amazing. If you have any further questions or would like to connect with our panelists, please don't hesitate to reach out at contact@harbingergroup.com. Thanks again. Take care and have a wonderful day and evening. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you.